Hello, it's Rob again, touchscaper developer, with another video. Thanks for all the great feedback on the couple of videos I've done so far. It really helps, and keep telling me what you want to see or hear, and I'll do my best to kind of come up with something. So this one's going to be a bit different. It's an experiment again. If you like it, I'll do some more. If it's a disaster, then we'll not do any more. So touchscaper tips. I'm going to call these, if we do more, touchscaper pencil tips. See what I did there? So what's all this about? Okay. Where I'm coming from here, we're talking about MIDI right now. That's our main focus, although we will look at other stuff. But MIDI's kind of like the big deal at the moment. And one of the things that I wanted to try and cover is the difference between running apps inside and outside of an AU host like AUM, and how that relates to the way touchscaper does its MIDI connectivity. So rather than kind of trying to talk through that whilst actually running the apps, I thought that maybe a diagram would be more helpful. So I'm going to do that. I don't have the diagram, excuse me, up my sleeve. I'm going to try and draw it and then talk as I draw it. So it's almost like a little mini whiteboard session. So let's get rid of my smiley face. We're going to get a little bit technical, hopefully not too technical, but I think this could potentially be useful. And just a heads up, we're not going to be running any music apps, so no cool sounds, just the very monotonous tone of my own dulcet tones. So if that's not your kind of thing, if you want to hear the apps in action, then wait for the video later on. But this, this might be useful. So let's get going. So let's. Oh, that's awfully thick. Okay, let's try that. So here is touchscaper. Touchscaper, the app. There you go, done. If only it were that simple. Okay, so the app has a series of built-in instruments. Let's call them A, B, C, D, E. They're not really called that, but you could maybe think of A and B as the main instrument, C is the ribbon, D is the sequencer, etc. Doesn't really matter. Just imagine that these are the built-in instruments. So when we talk about sources in touchscaper, this is basically what we're talking about, these guys. Okay, so well, what about other apps? So we're not talking AU right now. We're talking kind of like mostly what we refer to as kind of standalone apps. Okay, so let's do some more apps. We'll call this one X. We'll call this one Y. So here are a couple of music apps running. So imagine this is running on my iPad. So we got music app X and Y and touchscaper. So okay, how does touchscaper know about these guys? Well, using Core MIDI, there's a way of basically a music app kind of announcing itself to the Core MIDI world, if you like. And it does that by, on the app side, creating a port. So let's call that port X. Let's call that port Y. So far, so good, right? But how does touchscaper know? How does any music app know that these guys are, there's somebody out there, kind of thing? So what we have in Core MIDI is the notion of destinations, and there's a couple of functions that you can call to say how many are out there and give me some details. When you create these, you basically just give them a name, so that other apps can basically identify app X and Y by name. So in touchscaper and in just about any other music app with this sort of connectivity, you can query the destinations. So let's do a kind of destination list. And it says, okay, how many we got? Well, right now we've got 2. Go get me details on these. So these kind of appear. So you know when you're hooking up your MIDI source and destinations, this list is populated by calling these functions to say what's out there. And this gets refreshed dynamically because you can kind of monitor for changes in the state of what else is running, basically. So if I were to kill Y would disappear from here. I think you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm not explaining that very well. Okay, so when we're in touchscaper and we're kind of making these connections, what's actually going on? Well, we basically just are making connections like this. So we're saying instrument A is going to use app X, instrument B is going to use app Y. So that's like our MIDI settings. It's just saying this is the source, so this might be main instrument A, and this might be Animoog, say, and this might be, I don't know, Model D or something like that. So how does that actually work? Well, touchscaper has ports as well. Now the thing that's different compared to these guys here running in standalone is that touchscaper has a port for each of its instruments, like so. Okay, so what happens? Okay, let's imagine now the touchscaper UI. Isn't that beautiful? There you go. Oh, and then the chords here. So here's our touchscaper UI. Now you might recall that this radar view is instrument A and B. So what happens when you're kind of interacting with this interface and you've got MIDI enabled? The UI notifies these instruments that stuff is going on. I don't need to draw that, do I? You kind of get the idea. So I'll draw it. So it says, hey, stuff going on here. Maybe B as well from the main radar view. Okay. And when MIDI is enabled, what's happening inside here is that this interaction gets turned into kind of meaningful MIDI messages. And that might be no on, no off, simple as that, or it might be aftertouch pressure when you kind of move around. Okay, so what happens when you do that? Well, when that happens, touchscaper says, okay, for this destination, I want to send that MIDI message basically to this destination using this port. So remember, instrument A, app X, out it goes to this guy. So this port then goes to app X, and app X hopefully makes a note. And similarly, B is going to Y. So it says, okay, you've got mail kind of thing to this destination on port B. And then application Y gets the message and does stuff. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward and clear. That's what's going on when you're just running apps kind of standalone. So what happens when you've got AUM in the mix? Okay, I haven't left myself very much room for AUM. Let's do, yeah, actually, let's do AUM here like that. So, I mean, this can be any AU host, but everyone's using AUM basically for this kind of stuff. So, one thing I should add actually that has been a source of confusion. So this port, say app X has created this, it's called a MIDI port ref under the hood if you're interested in digging into this. Now you can hide or expose, you can expose or hide these. So if you're not seeing, say you've got app Z, let's do it. And it's not, you've got app Z running, it's not appearing in this list. It's because it's probably created one of these, it has to basically to do MIDI stuff, but it's private. And that's probably because it's one of these kind of new generation apps that says, you know what, I don't want to be involved in this kind of setup. I want to be in here. I want to be an audio unit because, you know, that's where everything's going now with AU. So just a kind of heads up, if you don't see your app in here, think of a few examples, sort of fairly recent apps like the Tal app. You won't see that here. As a few others that I use that you have to basically host them in AUM to talk to them via touchscaper. Okay, so I've just launched AUM. Guess what happens? Well, AUM has got one of these as well, and it will appear. Because I've launched AUM, it'll go, oh, look, there's someone else out there. Hello, AUM. So let's go back to AUM and launch some audio units. So let's, of course, the great thing about audio units is you can have multiple instances. You know, that's kind of one of the big game changers. So let's kind of do that. Let's pretend let's do 3 X's. Let's do a Z. So if you can imagine, these are your audio units, you know, running set up across the top of AUM. We're kind of the wrong way around, but if I do it the right way around, I think I'm going to get in a mess with the arrows. We'll see. I'm not quite sure where my arrows are going to go just yet. Okay. Excuse me. We got the Italian coffee on the go. Again. Right. So, audio units. Excuse me. Really sorry about that. Right. So, similar where touchscaper kind of knows about who's out there, so does AUM. So AUM, when it kind of launches or it gets notifications that this stuff has changed, it knows about destination as well. So it knows about, well, it knows about X and Y. So it knows about X and Y, and it knows about these ports as well. So let's kind of, so just a little thing about ports, which I haven't really mentioned. There's nothing particularly interesting that you can get at in this list, other than basically a name and really sorry, I'm having to clear my throat today. Other than a name and a unique ID. And that's pretty much all you can rely on. There's a bunch of other stuff that you can dig into, but you can't really rely on seeing anything much more than the name, which is usually the name of the app. Or in touchscaper's case, it's the name of the app plus its designated instruments. So it's going to be touchscaper main instrument A, touchscaper main instrument B, and so on, so forth, ribbon, etc. So that's why you see the names in the destinations. So in AUM, it calls these ports. So let's go back to touchscaper and say we want to, kind of annoying that it does that. Let's say we want to connect C and D and E to one of these audio units. Well, what we have to do is we have to basically connect those three instrument sources all to AUM. Okay? Which seems a bit weird to begin with, but it isn't really. Because what will happen when we do stuff with the ribbon or the sequencer is that we'll create the appropriate MIDI message, and then it will go from the, or rather we'll say that there's MIDI being sent to the AUM destination via port C, D, and E. Sorry, they should be dotted. You get the idea. So that's how it kind of goes into AUM as a destination and then fans out again to these ports. So okay, we're doing stuff. No sound. What's going on? Well, the reason why we're not hearing anything now is, well, first of all, this is just a drawing, not real apps. But the actual reason is that we haven't connected these ports up to the appropriate audio units. So remember, we're using C, D, and E. So what we do is we go into AUM and then we tap the little, there's a little thing you can tap next to the audio unit, which basically brings up a connections list, which is essentially just this. And it's the place where you can connect the keyboard and do stuff like MIDI channel filtering and note ranges and transpose and all that jazz. But without the app in front of us, let's not drill into that. The most important thing is we go in to that list and we connect the port to the audio unit that we want to talk to. So let's say, for example, we want C to go to X2 and we want D to go to Z1 and E to go to Z2. So now we've made those connections. And usually, nearly every time, these are one-to-one relationships. Yeah, you could kind of do multiple assignments, but I think that's just going to get really confusing. And I know some people out there have been getting confused doing that, because you can imagine with something like aftertouch pressure, that's quite a lot of traffic in terms of MIDI messages. So you could end up with kind of conflicting messages if you end up kind of routing those to routing one port to multiple audio units, or sorry, multiple ports to the same audio unit. Getting a bit confused. So I think my confusion is a good example of just don't do that. Just try and keep it one-to-one. So what happens now when we do stuff? MIDI messages, AUM. So again, we say, okay, we're sending MIDI data to AUM destination on port C. So all these, I'm using Procreate, by the way, to do the drawing, if you don't know this app. It's a great app. I'm not sure about that name, though. I guess someone thought it was funny, but yeah. Anyway, it's a really cool app, and it's very good with the Apple Pencil as well. So, yeah, here we go. So again, I think I said this already, but I went off on a tangent about Apple Pencil. So we do stuff, say with a ribbon, which is C, and it says, okay, AUM destination, port C. AUM says, hey, you've got data on this port. Where's C going? Oh, C is going to audio unit X2, and the X2 audio unit makes beautiful noises. And that is pretty much it. Hopefully that shows you the difference between standalone and an AU host like AUM, and how that kind of how that all works when you've got touchscaper with its multiple ports, because that's kind of a little bit confusing, and it's I guess it's one of those sort of distinguishing factors with touchscaper is it has these multiple ports that you then have to kind of rewire in AUM. So you almost have to kind of do the same connection mapping from the sending side to the receiving side, if that makes sense. Anyway, this is, I'm going to call these touchscaper pencil tips. If you like them, I'll do some more. I did think a possible candidate for another one might be an overview of MPE, which you may know already is an acronym for MIDI Polyphonic Expression, and touchscaper uses that, and a lot of other apps do. It's a bit of a minefield. So if you fancy seeing me do one of these and talking about MPE, then I can do that. Let me know in the comments section on this video. But hopefully this has been helpful. My next one will be actually more hands-on with a real app, and I'll be doing an AUM session. But this might be good to watch if you want to know what's going on under the hood, so to speak. So that's it for this one. Okay, thanks for watching. Strike the like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with this sort of nonsense. And hope you're all safe and well, and I'll catch you later with a much more fun video with AUM. Okay, cheers. Bye-bye.